Welcome everyone to this edition of In the Field with UK Extension. I'm Adam Huber and I'm here today with Jason Phillips. And Jason, today we're in early February and it's kind of cold out still, but we're all looking forward to spring. But this time of year is really good for frost seeding clover.
Exactly, yeah it is. And you know, I like to think about doing something outside because this winter weather, I'm over it.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the way all the farmers are. We've had so much rain this year and everybody's just ready to get out and get something done. And so today we're going to talk to you about frost seeding clover. And like we said, you know, from February till the middle of March is typically your best times to frost seed clover. And Jason, a couple of things that we need to do before we even think about frost seeding clover is probably first identify the fields that we're going to frost seed our clover in. But most importantly, we want to make sure that we have a soil test out of that field so we know that what our pH levels are and what kind of nutritional needs our soil may need.
Exactly, yeah. You know, there's several things that we need to do ahead of time, and then there's several things that we need to do to ensure success along the way. So we're just going to walk through some of those steps today. So like you said, the first thing to do is take a soil test. You know, you can do that through your local extension office, take a soil test and see where your nutrient levels are. Obviously, by adding legumes, clovers, to your pastures and hay fields, you're increasing the nutrient density. So legumes are pretty nutrient dense and also provide nitrogen for a lot of our cool season grasses that we're growing out in these pastures and hay fields. So it can help supplement supplement your nutritional needs in that way as well. So there's some benefits not only to your animals but also to your grasses that you're trying to grow.
Right, yeah, for sure. And as far as after we've taken our soil test and after we've identified the field that we're going to be frost seeding, we definitely need to think about the process or how we're actually going to do the frost seeding, whether that be with a four-wheeler, with a pull-behind spreader. They make 3-point hitch spreaders that are PTO driven off of the back of a tractor, and then they also have the small hand seeders. So there's multiple ways that you can actually frost seed your clover in onto the ground. But the most important thing with frost seeding clover is getting that good seed to soil contact, right?
Exactly. I mean, we're relying on that freezing and thawing action to work that seed into the ground. So in this case, we're talking about typically broadcasting this seed, like you said. There's several different ways to do that. But in order for that seed to get incorporated into the soil like we need for it to be, we first got to get good seed to soil contact. So that freezing and thawing action is what's going to incorporate that seed and allow it to germinate, to get good seed to soil contact, then allow it to later germinate and do what we need it to do.
Right, and that freezing and thawing of the frost is hence frost seeding. So that's kind of that's where that comes from. And as far as getting good seed to soil contact, the main thing that we need to look for is making sure that, especially during the fall, whether we're raising pastures or it's a hay field, either one, whichever one you're trying to frost seed in, we need to make sure we either mow or graze our pasture or hay field as close to the ground as we can get, just so we can get that good seed to soil contact.
Exactly. Hard grazing, elimination of that dead grass, that thatch layer, whatever that you've got to do to alleviate that, because that's a barrier between your seed and the soil, and so that's going to prevent, that's probably one of the biggest things, Adam, in not having a successful frost seeding stand, is not getting that good seed to soil contact. Or that's one of the biggies.
Right. And even if you do frost seed over your pasture, hayfield, whatever it may be, one good way to get seed to soil contact, if you don't have, if you didn't have an ideal grass height, maybe take a harrow or some kind of chain drag and run across your pasture or your hayfield and just kind of fluff that and get some of that dirt, some of that soil to show, and then you have a better chance of getting your seed in your soil to contact together to get a good successful stand.
That would certainly help. So previously, we pulled our soil test. It's also a good idea the prior year to control perennial weeds or any problematic weeds.
Right.
So now we're in the prime time. We're about to frost seed our clovers February through early March 10th typically.
Right.
And the reason that we discuss it in that regard is because usually after that date, we're not getting as much of that frost action. We're past the real intense frost time of year.
Right.
So
we're kind of on the downhill slide. We're getting into spring and some warmer weather.
Right. So we've talked about our timing. We've talked about getting good seed to soil contact. What are some other things that we need to think about? Maybe the rate.
So yeah, that's what I was going to say. The next thing, the most important thing, would be the seeding rate, which for your white clovers, your ladinas, your Durana clovers, that your white species of clovers, you're looking at 2 to 3 pounds per acre, so very little. And with your reds, Kindling is a very good, Kindling certified. That's a really good red clover to go with in your pastures or your hay fields. And with your red clovers,
a little bit higher rate.
It's a little bit higher, so you're going to look at that 8 to 12 pounds per acre.
Right, and it's a good idea too. You could go with just white or just red, but they sort of complement one another in terms of when they grow throughout the spring and summer and fall.
Right.
So it is a good idea, I feel like, to have both red and white clover incorporated in your mixture.
Right. Yeah. Mix them together, and you can use your contact your local cooperative extension office, and you can find clover trials. The university does clover trials, and you can see kind of which clover did the best for the past few years, and so on, and that can help you make a good decision on species,
on which clover varieties to go with. Yeah. Right. So basically, I mean, those are a lot of the things. By grazing it closely or mowing it, we're reducing shading. So to get good germination, we're going to have seed to soil contact, we're going to have sunlight, and we're going to have moisture.
Right.
So we just got to hope we get a little rain, and this winter we've gotten plenty of rain.
Got plenty, just like last year. The past couple years we got enough rain to do us for a while.
And also another thing that we might want to think about is I would encourage folks to not use nitrogen fertilization in the spring on these pastures and hay fields, because those grasses then are going to grow quickly, and they're going to compete with the seedling clover. So I would encourage folks to hold off on that spring nitrogen application to allow your seedling clover to get up and established, and so that cool season grass doesn't outcompete the clover and shade it out.
Right, that's exactly right. So I think we pretty much covered the basics of frost seeding your clover. It's pretty simple. You just get your right rate, get your broadcast spreader, make sure you got it spreading the rate that it needs to be spreading, and basically just do it, and you're good to go. Pretty easy.
It's a pretty inexpensive way to really improve the fertility levels of your pasture. And
also, reduces your nitrogen cost, your nitrogen fertilizer cost by, like you mentioned before, how they're legumes, so they fix nitrogen. So that's going to reduce your actual nitrogen fertilizer cost.
Sure.
So
lots of benefits to frost seeding. Now's the time. Go out there and just go for it.
Yeah. So if you do have any other questions, you can contact your local University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension office, and they can give you a helping hand anytime, and we have multiple publications that you can look for online as well. So again, this has been an episode of In the Field with UK Extension on frost seeding clover, and catch us again on the next segment.